I think the fundamental thing that's coming through right now in COVID-19 times is adapt or die. It's that simple. And as an 18-year-old, same deal. You know, absolutely, I would have been in hospitality. I was working in a bar when I was 18, so I would have lost my job. So it's about definitely thinking, improving my skills, educating myself, staying healthy, staying fit, and mentally managing and emotionally managing myself. But most important one is we will get to the other side of this. And when we get to the other side, you need to come out of the starting blocks really fast.
That's the second time that's ever happened. And it's not going to be the last. Welcome to episode 10 of Brisbane Base. Today my guest is Dr. Glen Richards. Glen is the former co-founder and managing director of Greencross, Australasia's leading integrated pet care company, with over 250 stores and 5,500 employees across Australia and New Zealand. At its peak, Greencross achieved a market capitalisation in excess of $1 billion while publicly traded, recording revenues of just under $900 million in 2018. Post Greencross, Glen spends his time nurturing his portfolio investments in a variety of startups, scale-ups and publicly listed companies, holding director-level positions in Healthier, Australia's leading allied health group, Regenus, a regenerative medicine enterprise, and Notoro Technologies, an exciting food tech innovator, to name but a few, and that really is the tip of the iceberg. And if all that wasn't enough, Glen has somehow managed to find the time and mental bandwidth to feature on 3 seasons of Channel 10's Shark Tank Australia as a panelist and investor. One of the country's most successful entrepreneurs and a man whose reputation precedes him. Glen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Carter. It's certainly a full mouth, and I think you're overstating it. But anyway, great to be here.
Absolutely not. I think I'm understating it, if anything. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Very humbled to be here at your offices. And I wanted to start off with a bit of a curveball, an interesting hypothetical. So given the times we're in at the moment, let's just say I hit you with the Benjamin Button stick, and all of a sudden you find yourself to be 18-year-old Glen Richards, but it's still this 2020 environment. So you've probably lost your casual job due to coronavirus.
Yep,
you're more or
correct.
less homebound, not too much dough to your name. Your network, as you know, it has evaporated overnight.
Yep.
But you still have the ambition, the hunger, that entrepreneurial mongrel in you to go out and do something big, Greencross scale.
Yep.
What would you be spending your time on over the course of this next 6 months, knowing what you know now about business, startups, wealth creation? What would you be spending your time on over the next 6 months to put yourself in the best possible stead?
Yeah, at 18, you know, you're bulletproof, aren't you? You're just going to tackle anything. You don't know what you don't know, so you're going to give it a red hot go. I think the fundamental thing that's coming through right now in COVID-19 times is adapt or die. It's that simple. And as an 18-year-old, same deal. You know, absolutely, I would have been in hospitality. I was working in a bar when I was 18, so I would have lost my job. So it's about definitely thinking, improving my skills, educating myself, staying healthy, staying fit, and mentally managing and emotionally managing myself. But most important one is we will get to the other side of this. And when we get to the other side, you need to come out of the starting blocks really fast. And so it's adapt or die, looking at what industries I'd want to be in. I don't know whether I want to be at university again or not, or whether digital online learning is going to work for me so I can continue educating myself in a formal environment as well as applying myself in an entrepreneurial setting. So look, I have no doubt I'd be giving it a red hot go as soon as the gates are open and we're allowed to get on with more social activities and networking, because a lot of networking is face to face. You got to get out there. I'll be right back in the game.
On the horse.
Absolutely.
You mentioned educating yourself. You've made no secret in the past that Verne Harnish, Rockefeller Habits, Scaling Up are two of your favourite pieces of work.
Yep.
What are some of the key takeaways from those books? And I guess more broadly, what would you say is the importance of self-education and continual learning in a nutshell? Because that's something people can do right now at home.
Absolutely. And I've had always had a view that life is about lifelong learning. And, you know, I've done a research master's. I read prolifically in business and wider in the scientific community. I'm a veterinary surgeon. So education to me is your competitive weapon, and you will absolutely embrace that all your life. So it's not, you don't get one degree or you don't read one paper. You will continue to grow and be flexible in your thinking, and that thinking will be because you'll continue to educate yourself and reading white papers off the internet, reading books and stories about other people's journeys. But I think for me, having deeply engaged with the Verne Harnish material and thinking about 30 years in business, my learnings, condensed it down to my V4P message that whenever I get dragged into public speaking, you've got to have a vision. Where are you trying to get to? Got to spend the time in developing a real plan, a financial and industrial roadmap on what you're trying to achieve. So your business plan, your marketing plan, and what it might look like 3 years out financially, and that gives you a roadmap. Really importantly, to pull that plan up and review it every few months, because internal and external factors will change. So you need to continually to review it. People, got to get the people thing right. Our most successful companies are not about one individual person. There's always a team, and there might be a figurehead, or there might be a couple of figureheads. But at the end of the day, you've got to get the people thing right. Attract really good people, engage them, keep them, and get the best out of them. And I love Bill Collins' work from Good to Great. Get the right people on the right bus and in the right seat, and that's your job as an entrepreneur to absolutely attract great people and keep them engaged in your organisation. Be patient. You're building. When you're in business, you are building something that's probably going to be around in 20 years' time. The current thinking is let's just build it and flog it. Well, what about you build it and keep it and continue to earn dividends and earnings off that company for many, many years, and therefore you make really smart decisions around the sort of platforms that you put into that business, be it IT platforms, CRM systems, how you manage your people, how you onboard and integrate new businesses or new people coming to the organisations. All those platforms, your financial and payroll systems, all that stuff's important. So you make quality decisions around the time and money, those resources, the two things you've got to make decisions on. Spend some time where you're going to apply it. And I was listening to Jeff Bezos the other day, and he only makes one decision per day. That's all he's got the energy for. So he's working on one really important thing, and he spends the time to deeply understand it and to then make a decision. But one decision a day, and it's entrepreneurs, we're chaos in motion. We're trying to do too many things at once. Slow down, be patient, build your platform and focus on one thing at a time. And the last one is, you're in business, you got to have passion and purpose for it. The why. Why are you doing it? And it's not ever about the money. It is about the importance of the project that you're working on. It's the purpose. And they've got to get that part right, and then everything else follows, because then you can sell the vision. You can sell the dream to your people. You'll put the effort and energy and time in to get it right. So, you got to have the purpose, and your passion follows through. And when you don't have that passion for the business you're in, you probably need to sell it or move on yourself and bring other people up into the organisation.
I think it reeks of it as well. You can tell.
Yeah.
You're mentioning Jeff Bezos making one decision a day. I think it even comes down to the simple things like what you wear every day. Like I'm noticing your get up today.
Yeah.
It is the same thing you were wearing on Shark Tank, the shirt tucked in jeans and boots.
Yeah.
And I think, even those simple things are everyone can do. Now, you mentioned the 4 Ps. We're going to get into it later, but while we're on the topic, you've emphasized the importance in the past of, being passionate about what you do.
Yep.
What's important, you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week on something.
Yep.
Why do it if you're not passionate, right?
Yep.
But there seems to be a segment of the job market, and they skew a little bit younger from what I've seen. They try something, they pick it up, they taste it. No, this isn't for me. I'm not passionate about it. I'll move on to the next thing. Every 3 to 6 months, a new thing.
Yeah.
What is your advice to those people? And what does it actually feel like to be passionate about your career? Because I think there may be a bit of confusion out there in the marketplace.
Yeah, that's an interesting query or an interesting quandary. I guess, are they, and you got to remember, when you're young, and it's not lecturing youth at all, but I think it's not bad to be testing, to see where your headspace is. You're going to live to 100. It's okay to test and if you're not quite really hungry and passionate about it, you're moving on until you do bump into that one opportunity. The concern I have is whether when you do bump into that one thing that you're going to go after, that thing that you're really passionate about.
How do you know?
That's a good one. That's why you have mentors around you. That's why you have people like parents and coaches and school teachers and university lecturers and friends and fellow entrepreneurs that you have conversations with. And part of that is you'll know. It's a big thing. You go, bang, I'm ready to put the time and effort and energy in on a day-to-day basis. And when you aren't passionate, as I said, probably should move on. But just don't see fatigue as something and mix it up as being not passionate. And that's why if you are serious about being an entrepreneur and growing a business, you also have to manage yourself well so that you can bring your energy and passion on a day-to-day basis into your organisation. And you've got to have that time out and time off to rehab yourself. And I'm very strong on that, so that you are, having some holiday time, you are working on your fitness, you're working on your health, your mental and physical and emotional well-being, because then you can manage and bring into the great game of business your focus and your passion and your energy that helps bring everyone along on the journey. And so that self-awareness and self-management is absolutely key in business, because you will fatigue and you will actually mistake fatigue for running out of passion. So you've got to be really careful. And having bought so many vet hospitals, bought so many businesses in other industries, I often run into the small business owner that is actually fatigued rather than run out of passion. And my counsel to them is stop on this transaction, take 6 weeks out, trust your staff. Your business probably will go back in that 6 weeks, but
it's worth it. It's an investment.
Worth it, exactly, because you probably shouldn't be selling your business. You should be rekindling your passion.
That is so interesting, because energy management, I found recently, is so important.
Yeah.
It's hard to do the long days if you can't physically do it. Your brain runs off energy, right?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned professional fatigue. Even you, after 17 years as a vet, I think it was, you had enough at a point.
Absolutely. I emotionally fatigued, and just, I had to do something different from working in a consult room and running my group of practices in Townsville. The Greencross opportunity evolved, and that was a change of career. After being a CEO and public company managing director, 7 or 8 years, again, you start to see your energy levels run down, and become an investor and a mentor, and got all my energy back, and it's a lot easier because I'm not dragged into the front line anymore. So my energy levels stay very positive. And my job then is to help support and mentor my CEOs across my different businesses now.
You've been doing this a long time, and you mentioned patience on the topic of the 4 Ps.
Yeah.
And you've said it in this interview, you've said it in prior ones, we're going to live to 100.
Yeah.
Why is everyone trying to get rich in 3 to 5 years? What's wrong with taking 10 to 20 to build a business, or even more in the grand scheme of things? Why not? Could you speak a little bit on your view around the importance of patience in business and time and compounding and all these things in one's career?
Well, it's interesting. I think COVID-19 is probably teaching us, we're all in physical distancing and in relative isolation, and it's made us slow down a little bit. And I think it's probably not a bad thing, because we've all been on this spiralling attack for in life. We've sped up the email wars, the text, the social media, the interactions that go on. It's a good opportunity to slow down a little bit and perhaps evolve some patience. But when you are an entrepreneur and you want to get rich quick, it's pretty hollow. It's more about finding what you're passionate about, taking the time, and that's what we've been building a garden at home during this time with my family, and simply extracting weeds. I'm the most impatient person you're going to meet, but it's been almost cathartic, almost therapeutic. Slow down and pulling out weeds and getting my carrots and my tomatoes to grow is an analogy for life. Same in business. Slow down a fraction. Take some time over applying your resources, those time and money that we talked about. Apply them on the right things and watch them grow and nurture. And it's the same in business, that you're rushing, you're in chaos mode, you're annoying people around you. Slow down, make smart decisions, take time on those decisions, take time to plan, and absolutely take time to nurture your business and build those platforms. That means you are going to still be in business in 20 years' time. If you decide to sell your business or to retire or to bring up your management team and let them run the company, great. You've built a business built to last. That's what growing a business is about.
Yeah.
Build something that you're proud of, take the time in doing it, and you can step back and say, there's some great work there.
Speaking of taking time, what most people probably wouldn't guess about you is that I believe you took a gap year after you graduated high school and went and travelled Europe and did your own thing.
You've done a good history lesson on me. Well done.
I try to have a quick check, but most students, most young people, they want to get there so quick. No,
Yep.
I can't waste a year. No, I can't take my foot off the gas.
Yep.
But it's so important, I think, to take some time to think about what you may be committing the next 5-10 years of your time, resources and energy towards. make sure it's the right thing.
Yeah.
How important is that?
Look, I think it's all about taking time to make smart decisions rather than rushing. And that's why you do have I call it a menagerie of mentors, people around you that help play with your headspace a little. Ask those challenging questions. And in asking those challenging questions, it forces you to maybe think a bit deeper and a bit longer and a bit harder around where you're going. And having time out, gap year, absolutely. That was important. I had a gap year, I guess, finished my research masters, ended up in London for a couple of years, which then set me up to meet a bunch of vets over there, to study a business model around pet stores and vet clinics, to do some deeper reading on business because I was a science guy with a veterinary degree. A couple of years reading business books set me up so much better that when we came back to do Greencross in Australia, I was ready to go.
You were ready?
Yeah, had a lot more experience and understanding and skill. So it's okay. Keep saying to young people, you're going to live to 100, slow down, and it's okay if you get run up a dry gully and realise you've got to backtrack and take another track.
Take a seat, think about it. And it's not just at the start of your career too, you took a sabbatical, in between managing director roles and being a chairman. Absolutely.
You're allowed, and in the vet industry we call it a goanna track. You watch a goanna track, it wobbles around the place.
Yeah.
And it's okay as long as you're not bailing out early. If you've given something a red hot go in a certain direction and you realise you're not passionate or it's not working, it's okay to back up and go again.
I think that's such an important message. Now, winding back the clock to your Greencross days, there's this interesting story from where shortly you guys had IPO'd, I think around 2007.
Yep.
All of a sudden you find yourself as the managing director of a rapidly growing publicly listed company. And that's a role for which on paper you were drastically underqualified for at the time.
Correct.
And your CFO at the time was trying to convince the board to give you the boot for that reason. But long story short, you persevered, you acquired the skills, and you were very successful in that role for 8 years, as you mentioned. In light of that, for the person, the guy or girl who's listening right now who wants to start the business or take that next step in their career or hire that first employee, but they don't feel as though they're quite ready, they feel underqualified, what would you say to them?
Well, it's important. As in my own journey, I had a strong sense of self-belief, but at the same time, not in an arrogant way. I had a lot of time in self-reflection, concerned I couldn't do the job. But at the end of the day, you work out you are in a position, you have to step up to it, you have to acquire and develop the skills that are expected of you. And one of those key things you have to do is absolutely assemble a menagerie of mentors and peer mentors that are going to help you on the journey. And I did that a little late in my journey because I was a vet. As a vet, you get trained in knowing everything, and therefore I didn't realise it wasn't a sense of weakness or it wasn't a weakness asking other people for help. It took me a while to understand that, and if you can develop that when you're 18, 19, 20, mid-20s, that it's okay to seek out other people's opinions and get advice. It's okay. It took me a long time.
It's not a sign of weakness, it's actually a strength to be able to humble yourself in that way.
Absolutely. And the thing that I've always done late is probably seek out support and help. You think you can know everything or think you can do everything. The epiphany for me in Greencross days was a Vern Harnish workshop where I realised after the workshop I didn't have to know everything. And it was almost like it was an epiphany, but it was a massive, massive relief of weight off my shoulders that I just had to find great people and bring them into my team, and I had to find good mentors to help me with some of my bigger decisions that I was making. And that's what I suggest of young people giving business a red hot go. Don't forget to seek out advice and support from others who have gone before you, because those people they've made mistakes. They'll help you see opportunities. They'll remind you of the bad and pitfalls that are going to happen. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength.
They're going to give you the playbook.
Well, I don't know about a full playbook, but they're going to help you and play with your head. And as you write your own playbook, some of those chapters are going to be influenced by some really smart people that have been in business. And that might be simply the guy who runs the cafe on the street corner. I can tell you there's some massive learnings through to the guy that's run a multinational corporation. Everyone will have something that will help play with your head, and that's important in business.
You're an advisor and mentor to many entrepreneurs that you invest in and that speak to you on the phone or whatever it may be. And you've spoken about it in the past, but for these people that you help coach, you often find yourself playing with the heads of these entrepreneurs. And I'd be curious to know what adjustments you find yourself making and what limiting beliefs you're sort of stripping back.
It's funny, I guess there's a humble respect that you never know everything. And that's an important part you're trying to instill in an entrepreneur, because a lot of entrepreneurs are similar to my personality. You know, you come out in the front foot and you go and, you know, you think you have to know everything, but at the end of the day, you simply want them to be willing to open their mind up to other people's opinions and to be humble in business, so that you're listening to your employees, you are listening to your customers, and you're listening to your circle of mentors and peer mentors. So when an opinion is offered up, it is allowed to play with your head. And it's not in an arrogant way, it is in a humble way. And people that are humble in business tend not to bump into too many big problems, because they're listening and seeing and willing to pivot and adjust their entrepreneurial journey. Those entrepreneurs that are arrogant, that think they know everything, they're the ones that blow up companies, they blow up investors' money, and they then jump on the horse and go hard again without learning anything from that experience.
But more importantly, blow up their reputation.
And blow up their reputation. Somehow they can hide it, but I can tell you the sort of entrepreneurs I invest in, one, listen to people's opinions, all people, no matter what walks of life they come from. They respect other people's money, they deeply respect other people investing in their companies, and they're willing to listen to opinion and pivot their journey and adjust as they go on, which is why, as part of that planning program, you need to review every few months.
Circling back to your Greencross days, there was a time, I think it was around the GFC, where you were purchasing vet hospitals, acquiring vet hospitals cashless essentially, so using bank debt and earnouts.
Yes.
I think this went on for about 5 years, to the point where you were something like 90% geared somewhere along the line, which I think you said in a previous interview was an obnoxious amount of debt.
Terrible.
And everyone kept asking you about it. But that aside, taking on debt in pursuit of an upside, that's adopting a certain degree of risk.
Yep.
In case it's financial risk, but there's other types of risk.
Yep.
And I'd be curious to know what your philosophy is around taking on risk and making bold bets, particularly as a young person, and what your advice may be to a young, ambitious, aspiring entrepreneur around taking risk.
Look, I guess I never saw taking on risk as a big bet. I think you assemble all the facts, you assemble people that are knowledgeable. So I had a great CFO, I had a great COO in the company at the time. So, you know, good people around you, both internally and externally, that help you with those big decisions. And then your appetite, you know, some people can handle debt, some can't. I guess my view is we had really stable and solid earnings that came out of vet hospitals, and therefore I could gear my business up a lot more than other businesses. Even in COVID-19, the vet industry is still going okay.
Wow.
You know, people are still able to bring their pets in. They can do zero contact consults. So even in tough times, I knew my earnings were pretty solid. Therefore, my appetite for risk was even higher than in probably some other businesses. But, you know, good CFO that could monitor my cash flow, could predict our cash going forward, meant we could make big and bold decisions. So it's about understanding your business well, understanding the risks you're taking on, and not be flippant or stupid, but simply assemble enough facts, not too much, but enough facts to help you make those decisions.
That's an interesting point, not too much facts. Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, you've heard the statement, paralysis by analysis. So some people that are in your team, and they're not bad to have, do not want to make a decision until they've absolutely assembled every single likely data point, and you never move forward. You know, you've got to...
I laugh because I'm sometimes this person.
Yeah, well, no, it's important to understand that good entrepreneurs will assemble enough data points and then get on and make the decision and trust their gut. And you've heard all the latest theories on the gut, that there is actually a lot of brain matter there. So your gut instinct is real, but a smart entrepreneur facing off against competitors may move a lot faster than competitors, because there's enough data points to get on and make it, but at the same time their gut instinct has helped propelling them in the right direction. Yeah,
so it becomes about speed at a certain point.
Yeah.
Now, continuing, we were just talking about acquiring vet hospitals and continuing along that sort of train of thought. Right now, small businesses may be for sale for depressed prices. That's probably the reality, maybe a harsh reality, but it is the reality. What would have you licking your lips at the moment if you had a couple $100,000 to invest in a small business? What business models, what sectors get you excited at the moment in light of everything that's going on and sort of moving forward?
Well, I suppose you want robust earnings, even in tough times. You want a product or a service that the market really does need. So I guess my view, we want safe water supply, we want safe food supply, and we want a good health system. And you might add energy or in that, but I think from a small business point of view, you're not going to really be able to invest in energy, but some sort of water supply or testing systems for water or clearing water pollution. Food-wise, I love not being a price taker or a price maker, but having technologies that enhance or improve food supply chain. So I've invested in an avocado business, Naturo, and now we're going into a new technology for processing milk. And health, I love health. It's cornerstone of human society, so, and even animal society. So be it vet clinics or some sort of health-aligned business, small part of it, I'd be looking at it, at investing in that space. There's a lovely little business out of Brisbane at the moment, Allume, that does bedside testing for flus, and they're rapidly trying to get their coronavirus test up with the FDA in the USA. That sort of business has great appeal. So health, food, and water. Core
essential.
Who we are.
Yeah.
Essential.
Love it. As we work towards wrapping up, for the people that don't have the money to invest in a small business right now, you've spoken many times about the story of how you funded your first clinic acquisition in Townsville, and that backing came courtesy of your father.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because most often when you're starting out in business, your funding's going to come from friends, family, and fools, as they say.
Yep.
And I wanted to ask you if there's a right way to approach asking for investment from your mum, your dad, or a mate, and sort of what that right way may look like if there is one. Because it's, mixing family and friendship and business isn't always the most palatable combination.
Yeah, it's tough, and probably, if anything, it's even greater risk because you are going to your close and intimate network to get your support. And your parents will probably back you every day of the week, but you still got to respect their money and your friends' money and put the time and effort into the plan. Dad asked me for a plan and I put a plan in front of him of what I wanted to achieve in the vet industry. But you still got to put your time into developing that financial and commercial roadmap, and then you simply you have to pitch your friends and family the right way, not in the way you do it, in the investor circle, but convince them that you're passionate, that you have a real purpose of why you want to do it, you have the experience, the knowledge to reduce the risk in what you're trying to achieve, that you have a product or service that is absolutely relevant to consumers and the customer, and then have the respect of your friends and family to actually put that in a proper planning document so you can show them what you're trying to achieve, and then put the time into sitting in a spreadsheet and developing that financial roadmap so you can show them what you're going to do with their money and how they might get a return on that money.
Brilliant.
So it's important. It's just respect it. It's respect.
Before we get to the last question, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Shark Tank. I don't have anything specific to ask, but I was just wondering, what was that whole experience like? I'm sure it was a whirlwind of 3 seasons you were on there. What's it like being on TV? What's it like having probably people recognise you on the street when getting coffee?
It's pretty crazy. I went from having a glass of red wine with Steve Baxter to the next thing.
Madam Wu on the Brisbane River there.
Yeah, and then ending up on the show. It's for any of us in the business community to then move into another world. Basically, that whole TV productions, it's another world, and to be sitting there on set. The production, next thing the doors open and here's all the cameras, and it's crazy stuff.
It was a matter of days right before you were casted and you were
3
on
days.
set.
But between when I accepted and when we went down, it was 4 days. So I had a week of meeting with them, and next thing we're offered a gig, and I'm going, I don't really know I want it, and I didn't. My personality is to try and be a little bit more under the radar than out. But as you know, in the background, my family convinced me it was a sensible idea. Steve Baxter said you could always say no if you get the gig, and I went, hey, all right, well let's give it. But it's a crazy world. and I think the show was important in terms of giving entrepreneurs an opportunity to show their product off to a national audience, to perhaps get some investing and some investment and a mentor. And then the important part for our TV audience was education around what business is really about. It's real. We didn't get any background on these entrepreneurs before they came on. There we were trying to assess whether we wanted to invest, and a lot of the questions we asked, I think, did help educate a lot of the Australian public. Absolutely.
I think it attracted an audience that wasn't interested in business at all. And it was younger than I thought. I had friends who had no interest in business, were like, you see the latest episode of Shark Tank. So yeah, it really did have an impact. Now, before we get to the last question, I know, like you just said, you like to fly under the radar, but for the people who want to sort of keep tabs on what you're up to from afar, where can they find you online, if anywhere?
Look, I'm bloody slack on social media. I think my Twitter account now is redundant. My Facebook account's private, but I am on LinkedIn and do occasionally post. So I am, aware, and I do watch LinkedIn now. It's become a little bit more social as well.
Absolutely.
But my two public companies are pretty obvious: People Infrastructure and Healthier. I chair both. Both are really great companies with excellent management teams. So they can find me via those public companies, or, as I said, my LinkedIn profile is reasonably active.
And that's as good as you're going to get for social media with Glen.
Yeah.
Last question. You're the third guest on the show now to have had a significant exit or liquidation event.
Yeah.
Fellow Shark Tank colleague Steve Baxter and Al Balls Fuller of Crowd Advice being the other two. And essentially it was 21 years of working extremely hard, adhering to that counterbalance lifestyle, as you've dubbed it.
Yep.
And you elected to take a sabbatical. And what I find really interesting is that the things you chose to spend your time on during that portion of your life, going to the gym, running, paddleboarding, golf, time with the family, doing the kiss and grow drop-off routine with the kids.
Yeah.
All those things don't really require that much money. And you had lots of it, to be frank.
Yeah.
Lots of people are working themselves to the bone to acquire the high net worth, the house, the car, the money. And we've heard the story a gazillion times of the guy or girl who gets there and realizes those things in and of themselves aren't all they're cracked up to be.
Yeah.
I'd like to sort of ask you, given your life experience, given your success in business, what do you think are the important things in life, and what's your definition of a life well lived?
I think a lot of us share some very common views on this, in that your friends and family are important to you. You don't want to die lonely. You want to be thought of as a reasonable and nice person. So, putting time into your friends and family are really important. Works out the little things are probably more important than the big things. Having time to go for a run, to exercise, to maintain your health, to eat well, to exercise regularly, good sleep patterns. That all comes around getting your personal life right. Because if you get your personal life right, your health right, your friends and family circle right, you can really apply yourself in business. And the trouble with, you've heard me say it, counterbalance. In business, you sort of get dragged over there where you are ignoring a lot of that stuff, including your health and perhaps a lot of your friends. It was really healthy for me to get back to spending more time on what I think are the important things in life. And perhaps that is probably the only good thing to come out of this physical distancing and self-isolation is to realise that you should be doing the little things regularly, staying in contact, making the phone calls, doing the Zoom link-ups. For me and my family, as I said, we're building a garden, doing little things that are healthy. And we live in Australia. We are so lucky.
So lucky.
We as a family, we do a lot of travel, but I can tell you there is nothing better than living in Queensland, where we have free access to our beaches, free access to our hiking trails, free access to sunshine and outdoors like you wouldn't believe. Go camping for next to nothing. We're damn lucky. And those things, you can travel all around the world and you come back home and go, we're very, very lucky, and we should be deeply humble and respectful of the lifestyle that we have in this country and the ability to earn okay. But it's never about the money in business. I keep coming back to that. It's about the project and the purpose. And if you happen to make a lot of money off the back of it, that's an absolute bonus, because you don't want to lose connection with your family, your friends, and a healthy lifestyle.
Here. What a great point to end on. Glen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Carter. Great to meet you. Yeah, mate, well done. You got it in. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do